I'm doing something crazy this year. I'm skipping the turkey and I'm making my orange marmalade glazed ham. It's juicy and smoky and has this great caramelized sweet skin. Also, it's wildly easy to make. I just score the skin, roast it, and glaze it. That's it. It's perfect for any first timers for Thanksgiving or people like me who just wanna sit and relax and watch the parade all day. So I'm starting with the most challenging part, which is scoring it. And I'm doing that because it's gonna look really nice with this gorgeous diamond pattern. And then it's also gonna catch the marmalade and create some nice caramelized edges. So to do that, I have a sharp knife and I'm creating some shallow lines that are parallel and diagonal. I only wanna go about 1/3 of an inch down because I don't wanna go too far into the meat and have it split apart too much. So do them 1 inch apart, go all the way over the equator and all the way down. So I've got all my lines going in one direction and now I'll turn it to make it easy to do my lines going in the other direction. I didn't actually eat a lot of ham growing up, but when I moved here, Nick's mom, Roxanne, would make a ham for every special occasion. And I fell in love with it. The leftover ham after those dinners was what I looked forward to. And I do so many things with leftover ham. I put it on pizza, put it in eggs and quiches. It's so versatile. Dare I say more versatile than leftover turkey? Sorry, turkey. Okay, I'm done with my scoring. I'll place this into my roasting pan, flat side down. And this is about an 8 to 10 pound ham. So just enough for me and Nick and Bernie. It's bone in and fully smoked. I'll fill my pan with 1/2 inch of water, and that's gonna steam the ham and make it extra juicy. Great. I'll cover it in foil. And this is gonna go in the oven at 325 for an hour. And then I'm gonna take the foil off and give it another hour so that the top can get crispy. And if at any point the water has evaporated from the bottom of the roasting pan, I'll just add a little more. My ham is roasting away in the oven and it smells spectacular. But to level it up, I'm gonna make an orange marmalade glaze that'll be sweet and sticky and give a nice glossy shine on the ham. I'll start with 1/2 cup of brown sugar. And this is gonna caramelize on the corners of those scored diamonds that I cut. 1/2 cup of grainy mustard because ham and mustard is like PB&J. And 1/2 cup of orange marmalade. The orangey flavor is such a nice pairing with the smoky ham. I'll balance out all this sweetness with 2 tablespoons of sherry vinegar. And I'll spice things up with a teaspoon of ground coriander, which has some earthy citrus notes that'll go so well with the orange. These spices just add a little extra something special. It's Thanksgiving. And then a teaspoon of ginger. And then 1/2 teaspoon of ground allspice. Allspice is so autumnal. It's perfect for this season. Some black pepper. And then I wanna add some of the juices from the bottom of the ham pan, so I'm gonna get that out. It smells so smoky. I'm gonna increase the heat of my oven to 400 degrees. And I'm gonna add about 1/4 cup of the juices to the glaze. And the juices are salty and hammy and so good. And I'll whisk this together. There are a lot of good flavors in here. I'll brush on my glaze liberally because I wanted to get into these folds. It's just gonna enhance the ham and make it the best version of itself. Thanksgiving is definitely one of my favorite holidays. It kind of signifies the end of the busy harvest season, so it's time for Nick to slow down and we get more family time and we can travel. And also, Thanksgiving is way more special now that we have our little turkey. I mean, ham. Bernie's definitely more of a ham than a turkey. Okay, this is gonna go back in the oven now at 400 degrees for about 45 minutes, and I'll brush it with the glaze a couple of times throughout so it can get extra glossy. Have I mentioned how much I love ham? I'm gonna get it out of the oven. I'm so excited about this. It looks beautiful and it smells incredible in here. I'm gonna plate it up. It smells so smoky. Here I go. 1, 2, 3. It sticks the landing. I'm gonna garnish with some orange wedges. And then some fresh rosemary sprigs will be really pretty, and rosemary goes beautifully with orange. Okay, let's get Thanksgiving started.
It looks amazing. This ham makes me a happy man.
So I thought to myself, is there a way that I can make grits into a snack? So I'm going to make cheesy country ham grit balls. The great thing about this dish is that you can make a bunch ahead and freeze them. So if you have a party or guests coming over, you can just pop them in hot oil and you have yourself a meal, or in my case, a snack. I'm cutting up half a cup of country ham, almost making country ham bits. I have my skillet nice and hot. Got some canola oil here. Putting half a cup of my diced, ooh, that sizzle, music to my ears. All right, so I'm frying my ham bits till they get nice and crispy. I didn't grow up eating grit balls. I grew up eating grits in a bowl like most people. And as I've gotten older, I've visited several restaurants where grit balls were on the menu, or grit cakes. So I took the recipe for a grit cake and just formed it into a ball. Instead of just adding the ham into the grit mixture, I like to fry it up because of the texture. I mean, I like a really crispy bacon and I like really crispy ham. So my ham is nice and crispy. Just gonna let it drain on a paper towel, get some of that grease out of there. Okay, I have about 2 cups of leftover grits from yesterday. Dump it right in the bowl. I'm gonna add the country ham. And this does not need any seasoning, does not need any salt and pepper. Country ham is cured with salt. It is salty. I'm adding about a cup of smoked Gruyere cheese. It's gonna give me a nice little smoky flavor. So all I do is mix it with my hand, just folding in all of my ingredients, and then just gonna form some balls. So I'm gonna dredge these balls. I'm gonna put it in flour, egg, panko breadcrumbs at the end. That's gonna make it super crispy. So when you bite into it, you're gonna get crunchy, and then you're gonna get this ooey gooey soft center. Last one, right? Wash my hands. Dredging station, half a cup of flour, my first station. And to kick it up a notch, I'm gonna add a pinch of cayenne and a few pinches of paprika. 2 eggs. Slightly whisk. And panko in my last bowl. I'm using panko instead of breadcrumbs because panko is a little thicker than breadcrumbs, so it's gonna be super crispy. Roll it in the flour, put it into the egg mixture, strip off any excess egg, coat it in the panko. That's it. I love a good old-fashioned bowl of grits. That's great. But adding cheese or some type of meat to grits, heaven. All right, so my oil is heated nice and hot. It's about 360. I'm gonna drop these in here and fry them until they're nice and golden brown. I'm not cooking anything through because everything is already cooked. I'm just gonna keep moving them around so they get nice and golden brown on every side. No time at all. Ah, there it is. There it is. It's golden brown. Drop my last 4. There we go. Look at that. It's creamy. It's loaded with the country ham. I want to try it. Creamy, smoky from the Gruyere, a little salt from that country ham, super crunchy. Let's see if you can hear it. Ooh! Yes, Lord. That's good. That's real good.
We're gonna make a great starter, right? We're gonna make something called croquetas, right? Which is basically a potato croquette. You've had it before. Creamy on the inside, crispy on the outside. So I've got some ham and cheese. in the freezer. And I'm freezing this first, not for very long, but just enough to kind of solidify it, hold it up a little bit. Because we're gonna pulse this down in a food processor. We're gonna make the whole thing in a food processor. It's really easy. And actually putting this in the freezer for a second will kind of, you know, firm it up a little bit so it doesn't melt from the temperature and the speed of the blade. It's just gonna shred up so it's nice and pulverized. So we got Serrano ham, which is sort of Spain's version of prosciutto. The flavor's a little different. It's definitely meatier, it's denser, it's cured longer. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take our Serrano ham, chop this up into some pieces here. We've also got a little bit of Manchego cheese too, which is one of my favorite Spanish cheeses. It's really creamy. It's a sheep's milk cheese, and it's from La Mancha, which is in central Spain. It's a little south of Madrid. It's got a great flavor to it. It's nutty, it's creamy. It's also great in a grilled cheese sandwich. We're gonna take all these guys, and we're gonna chop them up, put it into a food processor. All right, we're gonna pulse it down so it's really, really well ground up. All right, once we get the ham and the cheese fairly ground up, we're gonna fold in leftover mashed potatoes, and we've also got 1 egg, just to bind the whole thing together and give a little puff once you fry them. A little bit of salt. All right, perfect. Once we get everything mixed up, the next part of this whole process is making them crispy. And with that, we've got some panko crumbs in the pantry here. Now, panko crumbs are like this year's black. Like, everybody's using them. And I like panko crumbs in anything that I want to make crispy, like a chicken cutlet or a shrimp or anything that you're going to fry, right? Panko crumbs are fantastic. It's a large, flaky Japanese breadcrumb, and people are using them on everything, so it doesn't really have to be anything Japanese per se. I'm gonna hit this with a little bit of salt, so we got a little bit of base flavor. Give it a little stir. All right, and we're gonna make some great shapes here called quenelles, okay? It's not tricky, 2 spoons. Let me show you how to do it. All right, well, you wanna take a little more than 1 spoon will handle, like that. And you wanna take the second spoon and just form sort of a 3-sided football. All right, if you're not really good at this, or you feel like you're making a mess, you can certainly just kind of form them into kind of little meatball shapes, and it'll totally do the same thing. But that is a traditional croqueta from Spain. Check that out. All right, so we got these guys. All right, we're gonna put it into the panko crumbs. Right, and I want to kind of keep the heat away from this because that's going to help it break down and get soft before I want to fry it. So as cold as possible, as long as possible, and I'm going to bang the rest of these out. Quenelles. All right, so we got our croquetas very well covered with our panko crumbs, and then we're gonna put them into the fridge for like a half an hour. We wanna get them nice and cold, let them set up before we fry them. A nice big pot of oil here. You wanna make sure that the temperature reads about 360 degrees because our croquetas, or potato fritters, are in the fridge, so they're cold. So we want to make sure that the oil is a little warmer than we need actually to fry these from the beginning, because we're going to drop these in. The temperature of the potato fritter is going to bring down the temperature of the oil. So we want to make sure that it kind of balances out. So about 350 degrees for you at-home players. And then we're going to take these guys, we're going to drop them in, let them start to fry. When they float, they're done, and they're going to be absolutely perfect. And we're going to serve that with a gorgeous, fresh, red pepper romesco sauce. Really easy recipe. Lots of garlic and roast red pepper, some almonds. The flavors are fantastic. Now we're gonna garnish these guys up with just some chives. A little bit of onion tastes great with the ham and the cheese and the crispy flavors. And it's gonna be really, really nice. And this, if we're talking about Spain, it's a great hors d'oeuvre, right? Make a big platter. And we're also gonna grate some Manchego cheese. Now, traditionally, Manchego cheese is kind of a soft cheese, but what I did is I took half a block and put it in the freezer, and I froze it, right? And then we're just gonna take the Manchego and put it onto a microplane. Just kind of shave a nice little dusting over top of the whole thing. Got a gorgeous platter, looking good. Now let me crack one of these open. This you gotta see, check it out. Look at that, it's so soft, really delicious. Look how fluffy that is, isn't that gorgeous? All right, super crunchy. I'm going for a little quick bite here. Can you hear that? That is so fantastic, it's fresh.
When I walk down the streets of Paris, I'm all about going to those little creperies that are just on street corners all over the place. I'm gonna make a buckwheat crepe, And I'm gonna fill it with some ham, some cheese, some caramelized onions. It's making my mouth water right this very moment. Let's make a crepe batter. 3 eggs, some milk, some water. I'm gonna put everything in the blender. So we have 3/4 of a cup of water and a cup of milk. Everybody in the pool. 3 eggs. Okay, so a 1/2 cup of all-purpose flour, and another 1/2 cup of buckwheat flour. It's gonna give it sort of a nice nutty flavor. I love the flavor of buckwheat, actually. Okay, and then we need a little salt and pepper and 2 tablespoons of canola oil. 1, 2. Then we just blend. You see, it's like a very thin pancake batter. And what I like to do is let this batter rest for, at least a half an hour or so. I have a crepe pan here, and a crepe pan is usually a very thin pan and a little bit of melted butter, just a very tiny bit of melted butter. We're gonna take our batter that we've rested, all right? And this is all in the wrist, okay? Try to cover the entire pan with one thin layer of the batter, okay? That's what you wanna see. While that's cooking, we're gonna just flavor our caramelized onions a little bit. I'm gonna take just a splash of red wine vinegar and a little bit of fresh thyme, just kind of send home that Parisian flavor. And these caramelized onions, they're done. Okay, we've been cooking this crepe for about a minute or so. We're gonna take a look at what's happening here. Okay, it's cooked on that side, and we're just gonna turn it over. We want them to cook nice and evenly, so, medium heat. Even, medium, perfect. Okay, so here's what's gonna go into these. It's very simple. We have some sliced Black Forest ham. And then some Gruyere cheese, which is, a high-quality Swiss cheese. Let's take our crepe out. You see this? Just comes right off the pan. All right, and we just put it back here and stack them. And you can leave them out. You can cover them in plastic wrap. They refrigerate really nicely. Crepes are a really nice thing to actually make ahead of time. We're gonna grate some of the Swiss Gruyere. Okay, now we're gonna take our crepe, put it back on our skillet, kind of warm the crepe a little bit. As that's working, we're gonna take a little bit of our cheese and a little bit of our ham. And then, of course, we need some of our onions. And then we're just gonna fold it over. And you see it's getting nice and crispy on the outside, that's good. If you're walking down the streets of Paris, they usually put it in some sort of parchment paper or some deli wrap paper, just hand it to you with a napkin, and then you walk down the street and you eat it. It's great. Ham and cheese crepe. You can see the ham, the cheese, and the caramelized onions right there. See how nicely melted the cheese is? It's good.
And my ham and potato pizza has everything that hardworking farmers need: meat and potatoes. I'm gonna start with a simple pizza dough, but it's gonna be extra special because I'm gonna grind some of Nick's wheat berries into whole wheat flour. And I'm gonna mill it right here in my blender. If you don't have fresh wheat berries from the farm out back, you can just use whole wheat flour in this recipe. Okay, it looks like whole wheat flour. It smells a little nutty like whole wheat flour. All right, now I'm gonna add 2/3 of a cup of this to my bowl. Now I'm gonna add 1 1/3 cups of all-purpose flour. Because otherwise, if I just use this whole wheat flour, the pizza dough would be way too dense and chewy. I'll also add a teaspoon of sugar, and then a teaspoon of kosher salt, half a teaspoon of instant yeast, and then I'll whisk to combine. I love the nuttiness that the whole wheat flour adds. Such great flavor, especially with the ham and potatoes. This is just gonna be delicious. And now that this is combined, I'll add 1 cup of lukewarm water. And I'll whisk this in. switch to my spatula. It's a no-knead dough, so I'll mix it together, and once all of the flour is incorporated, I'll cover it and let it rise for at least an hour and a half, or it could go overnight. This is gonna be a really nice, flavorful crust. This dough is looking great. Now I have my 2 rounds of parchment paper, which will help me transfer my pizzas to my pizza peel and into the oven. And I'm gonna flour them liberally because this is a very wet dough. I'm gonna flour the top of this too and make it easier to handle. And now I'll divide it in half. Oh, it's so soft. Now I'm shaping this into a ball, which will help me flatten it into a nice round circle. Smells like pizza dough. And I'll roll these out into 12-inch circles. I like using one of these small rolling pins to give me more control. And if the dough feels like it's getting too sticky, I'll dust with a little more flour. And I'm just working from the center outwards until it's about 12 inches in diameter. These look great. Now, the first thing I like to do when I'm topping my pizza is brush it with some olive oil. It helps the crust get a little bit of a crunchy exterior. And brush it all over. Now it's time to top. I've prepped all of my toppings in advance. Thinly sliced garlic, lots of garlic, and some shallots. Fresh mozzarella, just tear it into chunks and sprinkled with a little bit of salt. And this gets really melty, so I don't want to go too overboard on the mozzarella. Now my spinach. Seems like a lot, but it'll cook down. And now I'll scatter my ham all over. I love these nice big pieces of ham. And lastly, some rainbow fingerling potatoes sliced super thin. I want to be careful not to overlap them so that they can get evenly cooked and thoroughly cooked as well. I don't want to have any raw potatoes on my pizza. These look beautiful. Now, before I get them in the oven, it's really important to season them with salt and pepper. These potatoes need a little salt to bring out the flavor. Now some black pepper too. Into the oven they go. This is gonna bake now at 475 for 12 minutes. It's gonna be so good. I can smell those ham and potato pizzas. I bet they're ready. These are stunning, and I just got a whiff of garlic and potato. I cannot wait to eat these. To finish these off, I'll add some shavings of salty Parmesan right on the hot pizzas. This is starting to get a little melty already. And I'll add some chopped parsley for a pop of freshness. And lastly, some crushed red pepper for a touch of heat. This looks and smells amazing. This is taking pizza night to a whole nother level. Straight from the field and into our bellies.
How do you go from ordinary to extraordinary? Well, when it comes to the everyday omelet, you bake off a spectacular frittata, which is the Italian version of the classic French omelet, but with the addition of a super bubbly brown crust. So grab an extra cup of coffee and relax, because today we are gonna put together a serious breakfast, starting off with my ultimate frittata. Lots of fresh eggs, caramelized onions, soft new potatoes, smoked ham, lots of Gruyere cheese, and then we're gonna bake it off in a pan. All right, it's breakfast time, ladies and gentlemen. We are gonna put together a beautiful frittata with lots of great Gruyere cheese. It's a great melting cheese. You know, the same cheese they use for French onion soup and croque monsieur. It's a fantastic flavor. It's gonna melt all the way through a frittata, so when you cut into it, you get that stringy bit. That's what everybody's looking for. 8 eggs cracked into a bowl, all right? And what we're gonna do is add about a cup of milk to that. Sometimes I mix it up. If I got a little bit of heavy cream left over from like baking, I'll add a little splash of that. Even a little bit of sour cream is a nice addition to the egg mixture. And we're gonna add the eggs, all right, into the bowl. And then we're gonna add a cup a whole milk, and I'm just gonna eyeball it. All right. Boom, just like that. All right, then we're gonna whisk everything together so it's nice and pale, all incorporated. All right, cool. Then we're gonna take half of our Gruyere, our beautiful nutty Gruyere, one of my favorite cheeses of all time. It makes a wicked grilled cheese sandwich. All right, we're gonna put half of it in and just kind of stir it together. All right, we're gonna have a little bit of salt, all right, a little bit of fresh cracked pepper. All right, this is our egg mixture right here. All right, boom. All right, we're gonna set this aside, and then we're gonna grab some smoked ham out of the fridge. Now, smoked ham could be smoked bacon, could be Canadian bacon, it could be pancetta, it could be prosciutto. So I've got one big slice of ham, almost like a thick ham steak. And what we're gonna do is take a knife and just kind of cut this up into cubes. All right, and all that smoky, sweet ham flavor is gonna be really nice. And then we're gonna cut it into small cubes, definitely bite size. All right, we cut it into sticks. We're gonna cut the sticks down to little small pieces. And then we got a pan here that we have 1 onion and about a pint of small red skin new potatoes that have caramelized. Right? Like I said before, you want to give those a head start because they're thicker, right? And you want the onions to be nice and sweet. So we're gonna take these guys, we're gonna dump them out onto a plate. All right, and then what I'm gonna try to do is get all the brown bits off the bottom of the pan. So I'm not making a big mess. I'm gonna reuse this one guy right here. We're gonna take a paper towel, we're gonna wipe it out. Now, before you make a frittata, the pan's gotta be super clean. If there's anything that's sticking to the bottom of the pan, your frittata will probably stick to that. So you wanna wipe it out, all right, just like that. All right, and boom, we got a clean pan, so we're not making a huge mess. Then we're gonna turn this up, all right, to kind of a high temperature. We're gonna add some extra virgin olive oil to this, and then we're gonna add a little knob of butter. And the two fats in combination is gonna taste great with the eggs, really authentic, very Italian, and it's gonna be nice. So I'm gonna drop this in, pull, all right, let this start to melt. All right, that's gonna be great. And while it's starting to cook up the temperature, I got some fun stuff in the back. I got some great herbs here that I grabbed from the farmer's market. I've got some fresh thyme. All right, we're gonna take some fresh thyme out. And I've also got some fresh parsley we're gonna pull out too. Because parsley and thyme are great herb flavors, but they're not too heavy. Like rosemary, I think, would really overpower everything. You can't taste the eggs or the ham. Parsley and thyme are really good herbs for this. All right, I'm gonna drop it in. And then with the fresh thyme, what you wanna do is just kind of grab a stem, right? Hold it between your thumb and your forefinger, and just take your other hand and just kind of pull the stem leaves back against the stem itself. And all the little tiny leaves kind of fall off your fingers. So I'm just gonna take that and snap it apart. All right, boom, so we're gonna hook all the stuff up. We got some fresh herbs. All right, our fat's starting to come up at temp. You really want some high heat, so it cooks the eggs immediately as soon as you start to throw it in. And that's gonna create the nonstick surface, right? So you got a little bit of space between the egg and the pan, and that's the oil. Okay, so we got our eggs here. Eggs, milk, salt, pepper, Gruyere cheese, okay? And what you wanna do, just give it a swirl. Eggs in one hand, pan the other, swirl in the oil. All right, we're just gonna drop it in, all right, just like that. Immediately, all the way around, I can see the eggs on the outside are not sticking to the pan at all. I completely started to souffle, pull away, and what's kind of raw in the middle is all that delicious egg mixture starting to come together. Now what we're gonna do is start to load in all of our delicious ingredients. We've got our potatoes and our caramelized onions, okay, scattered around. All right, boom, boom, boom. Ham's gonna go in. As this thing starts to come up to temperature, all the eggs are gonna wrap around and start to grab everything and start to puff up and souffle. Then we've got our fresh thyme, and we got our parsley. Give it a little rustic snip. Beautiful color, really super fresh. And then all this beautiful Gruyere cheese is gonna go right on top. Look at that. The cheese is gonna start to bubble, so you have a nice golden crust. Some salt, fresh cracked pepper, and this is it. Frittata City, ladies and gentlemen. Well, into the oven, 350, 20, 25 minutes. It's gonna get really puffy, and it's gonna be absolutely delicious. I'm gonna throw this in. Look at this. It's like an omelet, but a whole lot better. Take a look at that. Golden crust, looks spectacular. You wanna give it a little shake, all right? Make sure it's not sticking to the bottom of the pan. And then we're gonna take a flat spatula, and we're gonna go right underneath the bottom. All right, and then 1, 2, 3, the whole thing slides right out. Now, when I present a frittata at my house, I leave it on the board, and I'll take the whole board to the table and cut everyone a big slice, almost like a big turkey. You know, you want to give a really good presentation with this. Lots of good Parmesan cheese. Talking about some good Italian eats here. Boom, that's gorgeous, look at that. All right, and then you can't forget about the ultimate homemade granola parfait with fruit and that really super rich yogurt like that. I'm gonna cut a piece. I don't know about you guys, but I'm starving. And you should really take a look at this. Check it out. One cut here, one cut there. It's like a crustless quiche. Isn't that cool? Now that is the ultimate frittata. And I am starving. Take a look at this recipe, download it. It's so easy to make, and you're absolutely gonna love it, and your family's gonna love it too. I'll see you guys next time. Take care.
We're gonna start by making our empanadas. And you know what an empanada is, right? It's those Latin pies. And today they're gonna be filled with ham, goat cheese, and some egg. You know, we had that baked ham last night, so why not utilize some of our beautiful ham here? Smells like the holidays. So I'm gonna dice it up. I bake my ham. I usually use some kind of glaze on the outside. You stud it with some cloves. It's a terrific dish. Crisp it up a little bit with a little bit of butter and render a little bit of that fat off, and then cook the eggs in the ham fat. Okay, now slice up some scallions. I always have like herbs and things like scallions and aromatics in my refrigerator, which is great for the holidays. I'm gonna do a lot of cooking. And you know, now I can feed people the next day. Eggs. You know, there really is an art to scrambling eggs. It's just not like throw the eggs in the pan with some butter. One of the things you want to do is make sure that the eggs and the yolks are completely emulsified and mixed together, so you don't have any white streaks in your scrambled eggs. I'm going to save a little bit of these eggs for the egg wash later. Okay, so now I'm going to take my ham out. The ham is already cooked, it's already baked, so putting a little bit of a crust on the ham, and then we're getting some of the fat out. Okay, now we're going to scramble the eggs. All right, I'm gonna add the green onions right to this, right before they're cooked. You don't want to overcook them. You want to undercook them a tiny bit because they're gonna go in the oven also. They'll keep cooking. So we're gonna take them out now. Beautiful. So we're gonna add some ham. And then some goat cheese. Fresh goat cheese. Goat cheese is nice and creamy, it's a little bit tart. And you know what? I had some left over. Made a beautiful goat cheese salad last night with some apples and some pomegranates. And now that I told you that I made last night, I know what you're saying. Wait, where's the recipe for the salad? Well, if you go to foodnetwork.com/brunch, I'll give you that salad recipe plus the brunch. It's like a bonus recipe right there, just for your holiday leftovers. Okay, so what I'm gonna do here is just very gently fold the ham and the eggs together with the goat cheese. And then I'm going to just put it on a sheet tray so it cools evenly. Because otherwise, the eggs on the bottom will cook a lot more and the goat cheese will melt too much. And I actually kind of like the goat cheese sort of bigger pieces so that when you're actually biting into the empanada, you'll actually taste some of the goat cheese so it's not just sort of melted into the eggs. Just want to give this a taste. Very important, no matter what you're filling or stuffing, you always want to taste the stuffing first before you put it in to whatever vehicle you're stuffing it in. And here's a tip. Whenever you're stuffing something, it could be a pierogi or a dumpling, or in this case, an empanada, you want to over-season it just a tad, because you're going to fill it in something like pastry, and the pastry is actually going to dull the flavor and the seasoning, and people don't think about that very often. All right, so let's grab the empanada shells. I actually have the empanada wrappers in my freezer all the time, so the dough's already made for me. You use pre-made pie dough. I mean, basically, this is sort of like a pie dough. It's just not as rich as, say, like puff pastry, or even like a pie crust, like a French pie crust. We're just gonna make these a little bit bigger than they are. This gives you a little bit more room to work. A lot of times, people will sleep over my house during the holidays. You know, there's a giant meal the night before the holidays, whether it's Christmas or Christmas Eve. You eat so much food that you can't believe you're ever gonna eat again until everybody wakes up the next morning and wants to know what's for breakfast. So, you gotta be ready. But the empanadas is gonna be the surprise of the weekend, that's for sure. Because nobody's expecting empanadas from you. They're like, empanadas? Where'd he come up with that? I rolled out the empanada shells. I'm gonna fill them with the egg, ham, and goat cheese mixture. But first, I'm gonna take a little bit of the egg wash, which is just, whisked eggs with a little bit of water. And I'm just gonna go around the edges. You're gonna use your egg wash for 2 reasons. You're going to use it as sort of like edible glue for your empanadas. And then we're also going to put it on the outside of the empanada and it will make it nice and golden as it bakes. Fun to make. All right. So now that this is cooled a little bit, you want them to sort of be in the middle. You certainly don't want to overstuff them, but at the same time, you want to make sure there's enough filling there. Okay, so now we're just going to close them up. All right, then what I like to do is take a fork, and this helps to close them even more. And the pastry is just as important as the filling. So you want it to be nice and crusty, golden brown. I'm gonna take a little more egg wash. Just very lightly brush the egg wash on top of the empanada. This is gonna make them nice and golden. So I'm just gonna make a slit, a couple of slits in the top of the empanadas just to kind of let the steam out, because otherwise you'll sort of steam the pastry, and we want the pastry to get crisp. All right, so we're gonna bake these 425-degree oven, so pretty hot, and they should take about 10 minutes. Very nice. Okay, so now the pastry's done, and of course, the eggs and the ham mixture and the goat cheese, that was already cooked before we actually started cooking it, so we know we're ready to go. Listen, you can always make your guest a ham and egg sandwich, but look how beautiful these empanadas are. And it looks like you really went to a lot of effort to make them, but only you and I know you didn't really go to that much effort. But they look spectacular, and that's the key. Your guest will be so happy that you actually, sort of went the extra step, and they had something really special, even though it's just leftovers. A little bit of cilantro, some garnish, and then there's only one thing left to do. It's brunch time. Look at that. You get the ham, the egg, the goat cheese kind of running through there. And, the pastry is really light and flaky. It just adds one more sort of texture to your experience here.
Cheesy ham and egg hand pies. You can also call them cheesy ham and egg pockets. You can call them cheesy egg pockets. Cheesy pockets with eggs, ham and eggs. Wait, no, hold on.
Eggs, ham, and eggs.
Cheesy pockets with eggs, ham, and cheese. It really doesn't matter what you call it. All that matters is you've got to make these. It's so great. Perfect for spring. So I've got some butter in a skillet, and I'm just adding scrambled eggs, whipped eggs, with some salt and pepper. And then I have a bunch of chopped chives, which is a very springy ingredient. I'm just gonna stir the eggs and cook them slowly over medium heat until they're scrambled. Don't leave me. It'll go by really fast. These look good. Some eggs look better than others,
Yeah, I agree. Those look really good.
And just like that, the eggs are scrambled. They look glorious. I was noticing when they were scrambling just how beautiful and fluffy they look. There's something about scrambled eggs with chives that, weakness of mine, I just love them. So I'm putting them into a bowl so that they will quickly cool down. These are great little just pockets that you can bake and serve for breakfast. You can serve them for lunch with a little side salad. And then I'm gonna add some ham. I didn't want to add the ham to the skillet because I didn't want to contribute to everything being hot, 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 and the ham is already cooked. So the ham's going to kind of help cool things down so that I can add the cheese, because these are cheesy ham and egg hand pies, as I said a few minutes ago, right? So I've got grated cheddar and mozzarella cheese, and then I'll just toss, and by now the eggs are kind of cool enough that it's not going to turn the cheese into a melty, stringy mess. Give me a spoon and leave me alone.
I could just eat this.
Honestly. Whoever invented eggs with cheese is a gosh darn genius. Okay, so now I'm going to make the pockets. So I'm using puff pastry, and I thawed out 2 sheets and then cut them into 12 squares of equal size. And I'm gonna get a spoon and get a big scoop of the egg mixture, pretty generous, because I mean, if you're gonna grab a cheesy ham and egg hand pie, you definitely wanna have the cheese, ham, and eggs inside. You don't wanna miss them. So then I have a little bit of an egg wash, just egg and water, and I'm gonna brush the rim pretty generously, because this acts as sort of a glue. Okay, then a second square. Actually, this isn't a square, it's a rectangle. And when you put it on, you kind of want to stretch it just a little bit to make sure that it's going to meet the edges. You want to look at this up close, Alex? So you can meet the edges of the pastry and just meet them up. Press them together, kind of force out any air bubbles that are forming in the center. Make sure it's not filled with a big air bubble. And then take a fork and press all along the edge just to crimp everything together. Okay, so that is one cute little pocket or hand pie. I'm gonna put this on the tray and do 5 more just like it. All right, I got them all assembled, and I sort of misjudged the amount to put in the first few. We have some eggs to eat as a snack, Alex. I'm sure you don't mind that at all.
Sign me up.
I love these. So I'm brushing the egg wash all over the surface, and that's gonna help them get kind of glossy and stay pretty when they bake. Now you can actually assemble these like they are now and then freeze them just like this. Flash freeze them in the freezer for a few minutes until they're kind of hard, and then you can just store them in plastic bags and bake them from a frozen state. Now that is some really good planning if you can pull that off. Okay, so then just to give them a little bit of decoration and crunch on top, I'm gonna sprinkle on some poppy seeds, and that egg wash will just really help them stick. You can also sprinkle a little bit of grated cheese on top instead of the poppy seeds, and they'd sort of like little shards of cheese will bake right on the surface. Okay, let's go put these in the oven. 400 degrees, 20 minutes. And then we are gonna eat them. I'm hungry. All right, it's been 20 minutes and 13 seconds. So look at these, Alex.
Oh, wow.
I can't move, I can't speak.
Those look amazing.
Oh, they look so good, don't they? I have to put them on a platter, even though it's just you and me, Alex. So let's take a look. How do they look?
They look amazing. They're so
Oh,
fluffy.
wow, gorgeous. I think we should cut into one, don't you?
Yes.
I am so ready for this. Get in here, Alex. You have to see the details.
Yum.
Oh, they look so perfect. Look.
So good.
That pastry. Okay, you want to share one?
Yes.
Here you go. Okay. I think I should just go in and report my findings. Happy spring.
Those are really good.
Breakfast or lunch? The answer is yes.
The next hors d'oeuvre I'm going to recommend Jack make for his cocktail party is ham and cheese and puff pastry. If that doesn't sound good, I'm in trouble. It's actually really easy to make too. So I'm going to start with puff pastry. You want it really cold. So each package has 2 sheets. I'm just going to roll it out. This is basically layers of puff pastry, ham, cheese, and mustard. A little flour, just so when I roll it out, it doesn't stick. I'm just going to roll it out ever so slightly until it's about 10 by 12 inches, just so it's a little thinner than it is when it comes out of the package. Okay, I want this just 10 inches by 12 inches. Handy dandy ruler always helps. That's 10. Perfect, 10 by 12. Put this on a sheet pan lined with parchment paper. And I'm going to brush it with 2 tablespoons of mustard, good Dijon mustard. As I pile these layers up, the mustard, ham, and cheese, just gonna leave a 1-inch border around the edge, so when I egg wash it, the 2 layers puff pastry on top is gonna stick together. Okay, next to the ham. So I've got about 1/4 pound of sliced Black Forest ham. You can use whatever ham you like. I'm just gonna layer it on. Probably won't even use the whole 1/4 pound. Just layer it on like that. Again, leaving it a 1-inch border so the puff pastry slices will stick together. We're not looking for perfection here. We're looking for delicious. Okay, next, cheese. So I have a block of Gruyere. I usually don't find the best kinds of cheeses available sliced, so I just buy a block. Just take off the rind. I'm gonna show you a really quick way to do it in the food processor. This is a really easy way to slice cheese. How fast is that? Slicing blade. Done. Just put them right on. It doesn't really matter because it's all gonna melt. It doesn't matter what size the slices are. It's right on top. I love good Gruyere. I think it's got great flavor, really nutty. Perfect. Okay. Now, clear the decks. 1 more sheet of puff pastry. I'm gonna roll it out exactly the same size, 10 by 12. And then put it right on top. This is actually a great appetizer. When I'm doing a menu for a cocktail party, I like to organize it very much like I would a menu for a dinner party. And it's always nice to have something that's hot, something that's cold, some vegetable things, some cheese things. Okay, so that should be about 10 by 12. Now I need egg wash. 1 egg, a little bit of water. I've actually tried egg wash with lots of different things. With water, with milk, with heavy cream. Doesn't really make any difference, whatever you have. Okay, brush. I'm just gonna use this to brush the edges. So when I put the second piece of puff pastry on top, it'll seal it. And then I'm also gonna use the egg wash for the top to make sure it browns nicely. Okay, just lay this right on top. If the 2 layers don't fit exactly, don't stretch it, but you can certainly cut it a little bit. If you stretch pastry, it just ends up shrinking back to the original size. Perfect. A little bit of an edge with a fork, just to hold it all together. You can definitely make this in advance and refrigerate it. Okay, a little egg wash on the top. I love this. And then I'm just gonna have little slits in the top just to let the steam get out. So maybe just 3 little slits. So it'll puff up, but if there's any steam, it'll allow it to escape. Okay, into the oven, 425 degrees for about 30 minutes. It's gonna be puffed and golden and delicious with melted cheese and ham in it. How bad is that? So that's the ham and cheese and puff pastry. Little squares, everybody helps themselves, right on the board.
My brother-in-law Tim and his wife Missy are hosting Turkey Day today. Now Missy's gonna be responsible for the whole turkey spread. So I am gonna take a ham, not just any ham. This glazed ham is out of this world flavorful, and that's partly because of the glaze. The glaze starts with a cup of brown sugar and the juice and zest of 3 oranges. This is a lot of orange zest. I've also got a bunch of grated garlic, a couple of tablespoons of apple cider vinegar to give it a nice bite. And then I love the flavor of grainy brown mustard. I've got about 1/4 a cup. Now for even more flavor, 1/2 teaspoon of ground cinnamon and 1/2 teaspoon of paprika and the same amount of chili powder. And then, of course, some salt and pepper, just a healthy pinch of both. And then I'll stir this around and turn the heat to medium-high. Okay, now I need to let this glaze cook. I'm gonna stir it occasionally until it's nice and thick. It'll take about 10 minutes. Okay, I'm gonna turn the heat off and check out this glaze. It's really gotten thick in the saucepan. So now I can glaze the ham for the first stage of baking. I put the spiral cut ham cut side down on a roasting rack, and I'm gonna brush half of this glaze all over the ham. Now what I like to do is kind of use my fingers to spread apart the slices here and there and just try to tuck as much glaze as I can inside the slices. And that way when the ham bakes in the oven, the slices kind of separate out on the edges. Oh, the result is a miracle. You gotta trust me on this. Now I'm gonna tint the ham with foil, but first I wanna add some water to the pan just to make sure everything stays nice and moist. Okay. Just put the foil around the edges of the pan. I'm gonna get this into the oven at 325 degrees for the first stage. So let me pick up the story from there. So I was baking the ham, and after 90 minutes time, I turned the heat up to 375 degrees, removed the foil, brushed on the other half of the glaze, baked it for 15 minutes, basted it, and put it back in for another 15 minutes. And after all that baking and glazing, this happened. It was the big ham moment as I opened the oven to reveal a gorgeous caramelized glazed ham. Oh my goodness, it's a thing of beauty. And then I just put it on a platter, ready to cover with foil and take to Missy's to be devoured by the Drummonds.